Hey everyone and welcome back to another movie review. Today I'll be reviewing one of my most anticipated films of the year, the new James Wan horror film, The Conjuring 2. So The Conjuring 2 is a supernatural horror film that's pretty much a continuation from the first film, though I think it's set about 7 years later. It's based on another true story from the Warrens' case files, who were the paranormal researchers from the first film as well, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And they're the only returning characters here, still played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, and the film is once again directed, written and produced by James Wan and based on another true story. So The Conjuring 2 is set in 1997 in Enfield, England, around Christmas time, and it's based on this little girl who's raised in a family just by her mother, and she's got a few brothers and sisters, and they're kind of like a poor family. They're struggling to get by, and she starts hearing, like as you do in those kind of films, weird noises and voices, and things start moving around the house, and it's really creepy. And eventually she kind of notices this old man, kind of ghost or entity, that's haunting the house, and it's really kind of trying to take possession of her rather than anyone else in her family. So once it's realised by the mother, they try and get these paranormal researchers in, so Ed and Lorraine obviously show up, and it kind of goes from there as you would expect, as the first film kind of did. So I don't want to say too much about the story without spoiling it. It does follow a lot of the typical story plots of the horror genre film, so nothing's really unexpected there. But the fact that James Wan directed this film, he is probably the best horror director around these days. He did the first Conjuring, as well as the two Insidious films, the first two, which I really loved. And his way of directing horror is really unique and brilliant, because he can take a kind of story that you might think is a bit generic, and the way he adds the scares in, the way his characters are developed, and the cinematography and the music, everything just works so well together. So one of the things this film did really well was holding off on the scares. Because in a movie, when you're watching it and you see the character kind of walking down a dark hallway at night and the music really gets quiet and they're slowing down, you know that there's going to be a jump scare or something like that. But in his films, especially this one, he kind of holds off, because you're kind of expecting it to come up, but then it holds off a little longer, so it puts you off and you're not expecting when it's going to happen after that. So that's one thing that he does really well in this film, throughout the whole film, especially the first hour. I found myself loving the first hour of this film because it just focuses on the family and all the paranormal activity that's kind of going on each night, and it's kind of like scene after scene, it's building suspense on top of each other, and I thought the first hour was really fantastic and just full on. And the film kind of slows down a little bit when the Warrens come into it after that, but it kind of has to develop story and the characters a lot more. But then the ending of the film just kind of picks up again. So I was really looking forward to this movie because I'm a huge fan of the first film. I think it's one of the best horror films out, and I saw that film in cinemas as well and was really scared by it, so I was hoping to get the same effect in the theatres this time, and I really did, because it was just really creepy and really fun, and it's really rare these days for a horror sequel to be as good as the original film, but I'm going to say that this film pretty much was as good as the original. I really enjoyed it. And one thing that these films do that make them a cut above the rest of the horror films these days is they don't just set up their characters to be victims and to be tortured and killed. They actually give them backstories, and they spend a lot of time developing these characters because they were real people, so they're kind of showing that to the audience, and so you can kind of back them, and then when they're in dangerous situations you really fear for them, because they're not just an annoying character that you don't really care about. It's someone that you really want to see make it through these situations, so that's one thing that the film does really well also. All the performances were really great, especially Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga back in the leading roles. They did fantastic again. And the little girl that's being haunted in the film, played by Madison, Wolfe, I've never seen her in any films before, but her performance was really realistic and scary and really cool, and I think that was a fantastic performance to get out of someone her age. And yeah, because I think the whole film could kind of hinge on whether she's believable or not, and she's really believable as this character that's kind of being tormented by this creature. So I saw The Conjuring 2 last night with my brother, and we both really enjoyed this film. We're big horror fans, we loved the first movie, and this one did not let up the whole time pretty much. As I said though, it did kind of slow down a little bit in the middle just to develop a lot of character and stuff like that, but even those scenes weren't bad or boring, because you're kind of interested in these characters as well. So I really enjoyed The Conjuring 2, guys, and I'm going to give it a solid A-. So I really enjoyed this film, guys. Definitely check it out if you enjoyed the first film, or if you're a fan of James Wan or horror films, you'll definitely enjoy this one. So please subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other videos, and I'll be back in a few days, hopefully with my review for Pixar's new film Finding Dory. So see you then. Bye.